Today we're going to be solving absolute value equations. Recall the absolute value of a number is the distance from 0 on a number line. The last video that you watched talked about the absolute value of x equals 5. Now in that example, it talked about how the absolute value of x, meaning that it can be positive or negative because it's the absolute value of x. It's the distance from 0. So it could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it could be positive 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5. So our solutions can be x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. To solve an absolute value equation, you need to isolate the absolute value expression. So here's our absolute value. These are absolute value and the expression is inside. And make it equal to a number. So you have the absolute value on one side and then everything else on the other side. Then determine the type of number the absolute value expression is equal to. The next slide will talk about that. So continuing from the last slide, number the absolute value expression is equal to. So there's 3 different types of numbers the absolute value expression could be equal to. Write this down for right now and I will show you examples of each one. So the first type is if it is equal to a negative number, the answer is no solution. I'll show you an example of what that means, so just write this down for right now. So again, if it is equal to a negative number, the answer is no solution. Second situation, if it is equal to a positive number, you will split the equations into 2 equations. Without the absolute value bars, the expression you're going to make one expression equal to the number and make the other expression equal to the negative of the number. Then solve each equation for the variable. So you'll have an expression and it's equal to a number, or an expression equal to a negative and then the number or the expression, if you have an expression, would be negative. The third situation is if it is equal to 0, rewrite the equation without absolute value bars and solve for the variable. So if it's equal to 0, you just take away the absolute value bars and solve it like a regular equation. Our first example is the absolute value, 3x plus 8, closed absolute value, equals 3. Okay, so when I'm talking about looking at the number, I'm referring to if you have everything on one side and then the absolute value on the other side, what are you left with? Well, that 3 is positive. So since that 3 is positive, we're going to break this up into 2 separate equations and take away the absolute value sign. So we're going to have 3x plus 8 equals 3, or this means that this can be a solution, this first one, or the other one could be a solution, or they both can be a solution. And I'll show you some examples where not both of them are solutions. So 3x plus 8 equals 3, or 3x plus 8 equals, and you take everything that's on that side and make it negative. Okay, now we solve. So 3x, we're going to subtract 8, equals negative 5, divide by 3, and x equals negative 5/3. And here we have 3x, I'm going to subtract 8, And I get 3x equals negative 11. Divide by 3, divide both sides by 3. X equals negative 11 thirds. Now, we're not done. And the reason for that is we have two solutions here. However, both of them may work, or neither of them work, or one of them work. So we do have to plug it in. You do have to check your work. You can just plug it in for right now. I want you to actually show your work. So I'm going to do it in a different color so you can see my check. So 3, I'm going to check over here, 3 times negative 5 thirds plus 8 equals 3. So cross cancel. I get negative 5 plus 8 equals 3. And that is 3 equals 3. So that's good. This is a solution. And then next one, 3 times negative 11 over 3. This is the absolute value. Plus 8 equals 3. Cross simplify, I get negative 11 plus 8, still absolute value, equals 3. And here I get a negative 3 inside the absolute value bar, which still gives me 3 equals 3. So this is also a solution. And for right now, you do need to check every single one. You can do it mentally, but I would suggest you actually doing the work. My next example, I have 2 times the absolute value, 3x minus 1, plus 7 equals 7. So first I want to get everything on one side and the absolute value on the other. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides and rewrite what I have. I have 2 absolute value, 3x minus 1 equals 0. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I get absolute value of 3x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, the rule for this one is if it's equal to 0, you take away the absolute value signs and then just solve for the variable. So I'm going to do that. It's 3x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. I get 3x equals 1. Divide by 3. X equals 1/3. Now let's check to make sure that it is a solution. So I have 2 times the absolute value, 3 times 1/3 minus 1, plus 7 equals 7. I can cross simplify, so I get 2 times the absolute value of 1 minus 1, plus 7 equals 0. 2 times the absolute value of 0 plus 7 equals 0, not 0. I apologize. It's actually, they're equal to 7. I didn't carry down my 7. And I get 7 equals 7. So x equals 1/3 is a solution. Okay, the next example is 4 times the absolute value of x minus 2 plus 7 equals 3. So I need to get everything on one side and the absolute value on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And I get 4 times the absolute value of x minus 2 equals negative 4. Divide both sides by 4. And get the absolute value of x minus 2 equals negative 1. Okay, so my solution now is negative. And because it is negative, our answer is actually no solution. and you would just stop there. Now I want you to practice with a few problems on your own. I'm going to do the problems as well. You can pause the video and do the problem and then check your work, or follow along with me. Either works. So the first example is -2, or the first problem, -2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 1 plus 7 equals 5. So the first thing, get everything on one side, the absolute value on the other. So subtract 7 from both sides. So I get -2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 1 equals -2. Now remember, don't stop there and say, oh, it's negative, it's no solution. Because if you can see, there is a -2 out here that we're going to divide everything by -2. So when I do that, I get 3x minus 1 times the absolute value, absolute value, equals 1. So now we have a positive solution. And we would go about the same way that we did in the first example. So I have 3x minus 1 equals 1, and 3x minus 1 equals -1. And now I'm going to solve them. Add 1 to both sides. 3x equals 2 divided by 3. X equals 2/3. And then here, add 1, 3x equals 0, divide by 3, x equals 0. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to check my solutions. I need to give myself a little bit more room. So I have -2 times the absolute value, 3 times 2/3 minus 1, closed absolute value, plus 7 equals 5. Can cross simplify here. I get -2, absolute value of 2 minus 1, plus 7 equals 5. And here I get -2, it's the absolute value. 1 plus 7 equals 5. And that's -2 plus 7 equals 5, which gives me 5 equals 5. So that is a solution. And then the other one, -2 times 3 times 0 minus 1, absolute value bar. Oops, this is the absolute value bar. Plus 7 equals 5. -2, absolute value. 0 minus 1 plus 7 equals 5. So now I get -2, absolute value of -1, which is 1. So it's just -2 plus 7 equals 5. So I get 5 equals 5. Both of them are solutions. The next problem I would like you to try is the absolute value of x plus 9 equals 24. Okay, so it's already set up the absolute values on one side and the numbers on the other. We notice that it is a positive, so it's positive 24. So we need to split it up into x plus 9 equals 24 and x plus 9 equals -24. Okay, I'm going to do the first side. Subtract 9 from both sides. And I get x equals 15. And then on this side, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And I get 33, -33. X equals -33. Okay, we need to check our work, just like we did before. I get 15 plus 9 inside the absolute value equals 24. 15 plus 9 is 24 equals 24. And then on this side, it's negative 33 plus 9 equals 24. Negative 33 plus 9 is negative 24. And it's 24 equals 24. So both are solutions. So x equals 15 and x equals negative 33. The next problem is the absolute value of 2x minus 5 plus 12 equals 15. So we need to get the numbers on one side and the absolute value on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I get the absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 3. And that is positive, so that means I need two equations. 2x minus 5 equals 3, and 2x minus 5 equals negative 3. Okay, add 5 to both sides. I get 2x equals 8. Divide by 2. X equals 4. And then on this side, add 5 to both sides. Get 2x equals 2. And x equals 1. Okay. Now I'm going to check my work. And over here, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to do it on the side. 2 times 4 minus 5 plus 12 equals 15. So 8 minus 5 plus 12 equals 15. And that's 3 plus 12 equals 15. 15 equals 15. Move that over. I'm going to check the other one. It's 2 times 1 minus 5, absolute value, plus 12 equals 15. 2 minus 5 plus 12 equals 15, and that's negative 3 plus 12 equals 15, which becomes 3 plus 12 equals 15, so 15 does equal 15. Both x equal 4 and x equals 1, those are both solutions. Okay, this is our last problem that I'd like you to do. Please try this on your own. Either pause the video or follow along with me. So it's the absolute value of 4 plus x minus 2x equals 7 minus 5x. So as you can see, there's x's with absolute value and x's without absolute value. So same process, just we have x's on both sides, which means that we first need to add 2x to both sides so that we can get everything on one side and the absolute value on the other side. So we have 4 plus x, or the absolute value of 4 plus x, equals 7 minus 3x. Okay, so here what we need to do is it's like having a positive solution. So we're going to split it up into two groups. We have 4 plus x equals 7 minus 3x, and 4 plus x equals negative 7 minus 3x. So I'm going to start here. 4 plus x equals 7 minus 3x. I'm going to add 3x. I get 4 plus 4x equals 7. Subtract 4. And I get 4x equals 3. Divide both sides by 4. X equals 3/4. And then on this side, 4 plus x equals negative 7 plus 3x. And subtract 3x from both sides. Get 4 minus 2x equals negative 7. And then I'm going to subtract 4, I get negative 2x equals negative 11. Divide both sides by negative 2. And I get x equals 11 halves, because two negatives make a positive. So now I'm going to check my work. Get 4 plus 3/4 minus 2 times 3/4 equals 7 minus, actually what I'm going to do is, I'm going to erase this, apologize. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this equation because it already combined like terms. So I am going to, I get 4 plus 3/4 equals 7 minus 3 times 3/4. So here I need to make common denominators. So it becomes 16 over 4 plus 3/4 equals 7 minus 9/4. So I get 19/4 absolute value equals 28 over 4 minus 9/4. And I get 19/4 equals 19/4. So that is a solution. Now let's try the other one. And get 4 plus 11 halves equals 7 minus 3 times 11 halves. Common denominator, 8 halves plus 11 halves equals, and I'm just going to make them all halves to make it easy, 14 halves minus 33 halves. So here I get 19 halves equals, and that's absolute value, negative 19 halves. Well, 19 halves does not equal negative 19 halves. So this particular one is no solution. All right, that's all for today. See you in class.